you for coming out on a rainy evening for the first in the block lecture series for the summer of 2017. We're delighted to have all of you here at the Archives Library. Let me mention a couple of upcoming events we have. On June the 15th, Doug Wood will be doing a talk, Cultural Crossroads, Establishing the 17th Century Fur Trade in the Trans-Allegheny Region. On June 22nd, Eric Douglas is going to do a presentation on his oral history interviews, and he will actually be here in the library as part of Festival on Tuesday, June 20th and Wednesday, June 21st. He's wanting to have folks come in, talk to them about their history here. He makes a recording. We still have quite a few slots open on those 2 days, so if any of you are interested in doing that, you can call us, schedule a time to come in for that. And then on June 29th, we will have the next in the block series, and that will be Ella Jean Martin. But for tonight, let me go ahead and turn it over to Anthony Kinzer, and I'll let him introduce tonight's speaker.
Thank you, Deborah. Again, hello, ladies and gentlemen. And I am really happy to see you guys tonight. I'm even more happier to see younger people here, 50 and younger. It was my goal last year to encourage you guys to bring younger individuals here to learn more about your history, growing up on the block, the influences that you had that taught, guided you, and encouraged you to be more than you thought you could be. And I'm inspired by the young audience here tonight. But let me say that the block has grown, not in size of people, but concept. The block, as we see it, is more than just a small, concrete, concentrated area. There's a block in every city in America where there's a concentrated area of black people living, learning, spiritual, going to church, businesses that are similar to what we have here. And within that concentrated area, there are individuals who, as I say it, guided you along when you were younger, talked to you when your parents said, or when they said to you, I know your mom and daddy, and they wouldn't want you doing this, so straighten up or I'm gonna tell them. Or they whooped your butt and then you went home and got a whooping. That's happened in every city in America. So every city has its own block because the training, the guidance was given to everyone there as well as it was here. I'm proud of what we have here. The Block Speaker Series has been going on for a few years now, and we plan to continue it for as long as we have people who want to participate and give their life story and give credence to the community and the people who lived in that community who guided them to be who they are. One of the individuals we have here tonight, I'm very proud of her. I'm sure that everyone knows her. She's accomplished so much and given just as much. Her family is an inspiration to her. I've been watching her over the years, and she doesn't know that. But the individuals from Garnet High School are an inspiration to me. And that's where the inspiration came from the Block Speaker Series. And those individuals, with their teachings and what they have given to the city of Charleston, the state of West Virginia, and the nation, is incredible. We want to share that with the younger generation so they can mold themselves after these individuals. But I don't want to keep on talking about this, but Pudgy, as she's called, has been one of those individuals who have given and has molded individuals into becoming more than they thought they could be. She's guided the family. She's guided individuals and taught individuals how to be more than what they thought they could be. Tonight, she's going to share her story with us. And I'd like for her to come up here, Pudgy, or Miss Mary Booker.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm so very happy to be here this evening to share the Lawson family story. Before I start, I would like to thank Mr. Kinzer. For a year, Mr. Kinzer had been bugging me to do this, and I kept saying, no, Mr. Kinzer, I don't want to do this. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to share. But tonight, I hope that you will find that I do have something to share. And to get started, this thing's gonna bug me. I really think I can talk loud enough without it. As you note, I come from a long line. My family came to the Kanawha Valley from Putnam County in the 1800s. My grandfather and grandmother bought property on Piedmont Road, and it was called Lawson's Alley. But I was also told before it became the alley, it was the plantation because of where the property ran from. I lived at 1233 Piedmont Road, and we had 5 houses from Piedmont Road to Milton Street. They're all not listed on there. I was born December the 1st, 1931. My mother and father were Joseph Arlan Lawson and Ludelia Johnson Lawson. Our family my father was one of 15 children. There were 10 girls and 5 boys. My grandmother was the first licensed midwife in the Kanawha Valley. And during that time, she brought 3 other children home with her. That made 18 children in that household at that time. Our neighborhood consisted of whites, blacks, Jews, Syrians, Poles, and Italians. We all got along. From 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays until bedtime, we played together, we ate together, we slept together. But then, come Monday morning, they went to school at Roosevelt Junior High, and we went to Boyd Elementary and Junior High. And the one thing I want you not to forget is that our schools not only taught us reading, writing, and arithmetic, but they taught you that you had to be a good citizen, you had to be kind, you had to treat each other with respect, and most of all, respect your parents and your teachers and older people. Our neighborhood also consisted of black people that were firemen, they were doctors, they were lawyers, they were teachers, they were pastors, and they had restaurants. And we had on Moore Street, Dr. Harris's Pharmacy. We had Mr. Errol Green's barbershop on Jacob Street. We had families that had garages, and especially the Watson brothers that had a garage on the corner of Beauregard and Washington Street. The Gores had a grocery store on Jacob Street, and we also had beauticians. We had licensed pastors. We had restaurant owners. Washington Street had quite a few restaurants, and they were all owned by black people. We also had neighbors that looked after the children. From Washington Street to Piedmont Road, from Moore Street to Lately Field where I lived, the neighbors took care of everybody's children. If I went out and did something that I was not supposed to do. Before I got home on Piedmont Road, it was already there. You didn't have a chance to say it wasn't me, because if a grown-up said you did something, whether you did it or not, you had to pay. And when I say pay, go out to the hedge, get a switch, and bring it back. You didn't get the right switch, you were sent back to get another switch, and then they tied them together like a braid, and then that's when you got your... There was no talking back. Well, I'm going to talk loud enough. There was no talking back. If a grown-up said you did something, you did it, whether you did it or not. And when we went to school, we knew that if we did not get there on time, and you were told to be there on time, then you got it when you got back home again that day. We had Boyd School that, and I want to show you something that I have. Oh, that was me. That was one of my school pictures. And at Garnet, I was a majorette. At Garnet, especially I want you to know about Garnet. At Garnet, we had teachers not only that had a BA degree, they had master's degrees, and they also had doctorates. So we knew when we graduated from Garnet High School that we had the equivalency of the first year of college, because our teachers taught us everything. We had teachers that had a roast, and that was Mrs. Carrie DeHaven, and she taught Latin, and she had a roast at the end of the year. Mr. Davis had the Spanish class, and he had something at the end of the year. Mr. Lewis Barnes was our English teacher. Mr. Lewis Barnes put on plays all year long for us. We had everything. Mrs. Maud Wanzer Lane, Dr. Maud Wanzer Lane, was our band director and our choir leader. Mrs. Lane had a black and white ball, a red, white, and blue ball, a backward ball for us every year. And hey, we wore evening gowns. Evening gowns. Then the band, and then the junior and the senior prom. Evening gowns. And believe it or not, we didn't go to the hotel afterwards to enjoy ourselves. We went down to the drugstore, the M&S on the block. We had an ice cream cone on our coat, and by 12 o'clock, if you weren't home, somebody was out looking for you. You better have been on your way home. At Garnet, we also passed by Charleston High School. Even though now Charleston High was on Washington Street between Morse and Brooks, Garnet was all the way down on Sewsbury Street. But we had to pass by that school to get to our school. And you talk about things that happened. The boys got in fights almost every day passing by Charleston High to get to Garnet. On Washington Street, there was the Valley Bell. We could go in the Valley Bell. We could get an ice cream cone, and we could get a Coke. But we couldn't stay in there. We had to come out to eat it. There was Woolworths on Capitol Street. Woolworths, you could go in and spend your money, and there was a counter that sold hot dogs with the chili and the slaw and whatever you wanted on it, and a Coke or even a milkshake. But you paid for it at the counter, and out the door you went in order for you to eat it. You weren't allowed to eat there. I can remember very well that I had an account at the Diamond Department Store because I wanted my children to have their feet measured to get their shoes instead of going to the little cheap store to get the shoes. But you know what? I could spend my money in the diamond department store, but I could not go to that counter and eat, nor go upstairs where the beautiful cafeteria was, where they had china and silver and glasses for you to drink out of. So Charleston, in its own sense, had lots of things for you to do, lots of places for you to go. We passed by the theater. They had the Rialto, they had the Kears, they had the Virginian, and 2 or 3 other movie houses. But we had to go to the Ferguson Theater. And that was okay with us. We could go and spend 25 cents and stay all day long. One movie over and over or see another. So that was okay. In junior high, we also, and I have a picture up there. I think they're out of sequence, Libby. Yes, they are. But there's a picture somewhere in there that I will show you later that Mrs. Gilmer gave me, and it was a picture of Boyd Junior High School having a play, and we were all little flowers, and it was beautiful. I graduated from Garnet in 1949, and I married my high school sweetheart, Lawson Booker, and we had 6 children. And I was a stay-at-home mom. And then after I got my baby Jim in school, I thought, all my friends are working and making their own money and having a good time, so I'm gonna give me a job too. So, even though I didn't have a college degree, I watched the paper every day. And one day I saw that they were building a new store in Charleston, Arlan's department store. I said, it's right at the foot of my hill. So I walked off the hill, I went and I applied. Well, you had to stock the store first. So I don't know why, but I was elected to work in the hardware and the small appliance center. Well, that was fine with me because my daddy and my brothers all worked on cars, so I thought I knew all about that good stuff. And I watched them build stuff, so that was fine. I knew what a hammer was, a saw, I knew what a press tone was, and I knew all about nails and hammers and whatever, so that was good. So I was a clerk at Arlan's for a year, and one day I was called in the office, and I was asked if I would take the job as office manager. I thought about it. I went home and I talked to my husband about it. I called my brother-in-law, Bunny Payne, and I talked to Bunny about it, and everybody assured me that I could do the job. So I took it. After a while, you know, I had to go out and work on the floor sometimes, after I was made office manager after a year. And one day I was out there on the floor working, and this lady comes in. I was in small appliances. And she looked all around, and so I walked up to her and I said, "Madam, could I help you?" She looked at me, walked off. She went to the service desk and she asked, could she get some help in small appliances? Well, the boss, we didn't know at first, there was a big glass on the wall up on the second floor of the store. And later, after I became office manager, I learned that the boss sat in that window, which was a window that we thought was a glass mirror, and watched what was going on. That's how I got the job as office manager. He watched how I worked on the floor. Well, she went to the service desk and she asked for some help in small appliances. Well, he was in the window watching. He saw me ask her if she needed help. She went to the service desk again and she asked for help in the small appliance department. I asked her, would she like me to help her? She looked at me. She went back to the service desk the third time. By that time, the boss had come from the office out to the service desk, and he was the one that asked her, "Madam, do you need help?" She said, "Yes." So he got on the microphone and he said, Mrs. Booker, to the service desk. I walked to the service desk. She looked at me. He said, Mrs. Booker will help you. And she looked at me, and I politely said, Madam, would you like the Queen of Sheba? And my boss looked at me and smiled and turned his back and walked away. You know, the customer is supposed to always be right. But he knew she was wrong because he was watching. But she didn't want me as a black woman to serve her because she was white. Sometimes I had to go out front from the office and run a register. I would hold my hand out for the money when I told you how much your account came to. You understand? They're dropping the money in my hand. They don't want to touch me. My black skin might rub off on their white hair. At other times, I would be out on the floor, and the boss would call me and say, Mrs. Booker, I need you to watch that lady. Okay, I get me a little pad and pencil, and I go out and I start following her around, and I was instructed to write down everything she took. She was stealing. She was a kleptomaniac. Guess what? Her husband was the boss of one of the biggest companies in this town. But she didn't get arrested. I took down everything that she stole, and he was called that night and came in and paid for what she stole. There were other times that someone that looked like me would come in and they would steal. And what happened to them? The police were called and they were carted off to jail. So I have experienced quite a few things being a black woman living in a white world, because that's what was going on during segregation. And sometimes, even now, we are not treated as citizens of this United States of America. I also went to work at Union Carbide. And at Union Carbide, in 1974, I was hired. And I was promoted 2 or 3 times. And in my department, which was accounting, in which I love figures, I've always liked to work with numbers. And so the whole 18 years that I worked at Carbide, I worked in the accounting department. And I went to New York and trained for 6 months. I lived in New York and trained there. And my husband was able to come to be with me once a month, and we spent the weekend there and toured New York and learned quite a bit about what goes on in New York. And my last night there, I went over in Harlem, and that was something to behold. I also became a member of the Order of Eastern Star when my husband was made a Mason. And I was the matron. My daughter says, Ma, show them something. On this picture, that's my boss and the other 3 girls that worked in our office. That was at my 25th anniversary that this picture was taken. There, I'm a member of the ISIS, the daughter of ISIS, Department of the Masons. And in this picture is when I became the vice president of the American Postal Workers Union's auxiliary. And at the post office, we did quite a bit of work for the postal workers. I was a legislative director and I lobbied Congress. I met just about everyone that was either a senator or a member of the House of Representatives from the state of West Virginia. And on one of my trips there, I met Jennings Randolph, and it was his birthday. And they had a birthday cake there. And guess what happened? They had me to hold the cake and pretend and give it to him, pretending I gave him this cake, and our picture was taken. And one thing that you may not know about lobbying Congress, you don't have to be a big organization to do this, but when you go there to lobby and you talk with them, there's a foul on you. I became friends with the secretary for Jennings Randolph, and one day while we were sitting waiting for me to go in to talk to him, she pulled out this file and she said, "Guess who this is?" And I said, "Oh, no." She said, "Well, I think the name on the front of this says Mary Lawson Booker. So if you've ever been there and you've lobbied Congress, they have a file on you." And so I had a file on me for Jennings Randolph, Ray Hall, and some of the others that I had visited during those times. And the reason that we lobbied Congress was because they were trying to take the retirement from the United States postal workers and put it in Social Security. So we had to go there and lobby each one of the representatives in Congress so that we would be there when they would take a vote. One night I was there until 12 o'clock that night. And I'll tell you why you do that. When they take a bill, and it's a bill that everybody wants, and we know that bill's going to pass, and there's a bill that they're not sure of that they want to pass, then they piggyback it onto the bill that they know is going to pass, and that bill goes through, and you never know how it got through Congress. So when you hear about something that you did, well, how in the world did that get through? We didn't want that. Well, they know how to do these things. And right now, in our House of Representatives here in West Virginia, they're talking about the bill for fixing all of this money that they're going to do. Well, let me tell you what happened. In 1998 and 1999, I was a member of the Silverhead Legislature, and one of the bills that's up right now was one of the bills that we worked on back then. We were trying to get the income tax that we paid while we were working taken off of the taxes so that we wouldn't have to pay tax on that money. They asked us, the finance commissioner asked our committee to find out what states in the United States that they don't take taxes from. There are 30 states in the United States that no tax is taken from senior citizens. When we went back and told the finance committee about that, they said, well, what do they do to make up for that money? Well, we had to find out what they did. We went back to the finance committee and we told them what they did. And the answer to that was that West Virginia has the most senior citizens in the United States, and we can't afford to let you keep your tax money. So that will never pass. So don't even think that you're going to have to stop paying taxes on that money. And also, in West Virginia, they were told that with the taxes, when we went to them to talk about it, I asked the question, if you're taking my tax money when I'm working, okay, and now you're taking my tax money that I've retired, do you not know that you are double dipping? And this, I'm talking to the finance commissioner now, and you know what he tells me? I've never heard of that, so you got to come up with something better. So it's very hard for us to know how we can get these things through Congress, but you need, every time there's something in that paper that's telling you what's going on in Congress, you need to read it so that you'll know what they're doing to you, because they can get past you so fast that your eye will move and you won't see it. This is at one of the national conventions that I attended. Also in the auxiliary to the most American Postal Workers Union. At one of the conventions in California that I attended as a representative from West Virginia as their state president, I was to give the keynote speaker for the lady that was going to run for the vice president for the American Postal Workers Union's auxiliary. I gave that keynote address, and the lady that I was nominating declined. So we had to go back in session, and I was voted in to the session. So I became the first black person and the youngest person to hold the office of the National Vice President of the American Postal Workers Union's auxiliary. And my job was to go and set up auxiliaries in New York, New Jersey, West Virginia, Virginia, Ohio. And I gave the keynote address at each one of the state conventions. And as legislative director, I also had to know every bill that concerned the United States Post Office. And we would write letters to the congressmen to tell them how we felt about that bill and what we thought they should do to help us as postal workers wise. And during one of the meetings that we had, we decided to have an informational picket. And we made signs, and we actually walked around the post office in Charleston with those signs so that you would know that we were really working hard to see to it that the postal worker got its due. I also served as the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer of the American Postal Workers Union beside becoming the national vice president for the state of West Virginia. Oh. On this picture, during one of the state conventions, I had to set up entertainment. And for that entertainment, I decided to have a style show. And that was one of the outfits that I styled. And so,
Hey, come on.
don't even look at my mama like that. The vice president and the president of the National Association for the Postal Workers Union, and that's me over there, the first black vice president. And on there, the young man at the left became the first young black person that had also the vice president in the National Men's Department. And on this picture, I'm giving a lecture at one of the conventions. Mr. Warner. On this picture, I was on the entertainment committee of the Charleston Women's Improvement League. And on that picture, I organized the first Big Kings division of the Charleston Women's Improvement League. And these were the first set of girls that were in our club. And that picture is at the Capitol when I was lobbying Congress. And that was a picture lobbying Congress. And on this picture was somewhere in there. I've got a black suit on and a red blouse, and you can tell with a little bit of gray hair. Where I was a member of the Silverhead Legislature in 1998 and 1999. And that picture is when I received an award from the governor for civil rights. And that picture is a picture of my husband, Charles Lawson Booker, when I retired from Union Carbide. And this picture is a picture of the very first time that we had our family reunion at the heart of town. And that's my Uncle Ike, my Aunt Sis, Elizabeth Jackson, my sister-in-law Pat Lawson, and my cousin Julius Jackson, and he's here somewhere, and my cousin Peggy Austin. And one thing about our family is that in 1968, that committee decided that we were going to find out how many would really truly be interested in having a family reunion. And we had the first reunion at Coonskin Park, and 168 members of our family showed up that night. And this picture is at my 25th wedding anniversary, and those are my children. That picture right there is at one of our 4th of July picnics at my house. And this is a picture of one of our family reunions. It was in Toledo, Ohio. And this is 4 generations of my family. There's my mother-in-law, Ruth Booker, my grandbaby, Bailey Patterson, and her dad, William Patterson, my grandson, Joseph Booker, and his son, Darius, my grandson, Sean Booker, and his son, Darius, my daughter, Mary Booker, and her son, Damon, me, and my son, Joseph Booker, and my daughter, Karen Booker, and my son, Charles Lawson Booker, Jr. And this picture is 3 generations of our family that graduated in the same year. That's my granddaughter, Lene Booker, that graduated from Denison University. My daughter, Karen Booker, that graduated from beauty school. My daughter, Mary Booker, that graduated from West Virginia State University. My grandson, Will Patterson, that graduated from West Virginia State University. And my sister, Ruth Henderson, that received her master's that year from West Virginia State University. And that picture of me was in the paper, tending my flowers when I was interviewed for the state of West Virginia. And these are just some of the flowers on my porch. I love flowers. And these are ceramics that I have done because I love to do ceramics. And the necklace and earring I'm wearing are also some of my handiwork. I love to make jewelry. And when Reverend Dunn came to Charleston, he called me one day and told me he understood that I love to exercise and that I had exercise classes. And I said yes. And so he asked me to start a class at First Baptist Church. And at First Baptist, we had 20 members, and Miss Nawana was one of the members of our exercise class. And we also had a ceramic class and a jewelry making class. That picture is from a meeting that came from the Lutheran Church on Beauregard and Lee Street, and the Garnet Foundation and the school board. We got together and decided that the children needed to understand what went on before integration of the schools. And on that picture, what it says is the way it was. And I was telling the story of how I had to go to a segregated school, pass by a white school, and what it was like to live in Charleston during segregation and what happened after integration. And the amazing thing was about this was each one of us were paired off. Mrs. Gilmer was one of those, and Mrs. Wooster, and I don't think anybody else in here that I see was a part of that. But we sat down with 2 or 3 young people from Roosevelt Junior High School and explained it to them. And they were truly amazed at the things that we had gone through as black people during segregation. And they made up a play, and this play was given at Roosevelt Junior High School from all of the stories that we told the children during those periods that we met with them at school. And that appeared in the newspaper 2000. where these were the two young men that I interviewed with to tell my story. And I'm a member of the First Baptist Church of Vandalia, and this is my pastor, and Mr. Dean is back there. He is a deacon in our church, and he's our choir director, and this is Pastor Cornell Bowers and his wife, Mrs. Bowers. And at that time, we were presenting them with a presentation from our church. And that was just a picture during one of our church services. And at the top picture, I'm thanking our speaker for one of our Mother's Day brunches. Every year for about 20 to 30 years, we've had our Mother's Day brunch on the Saturday before Mother's Day at our church, and we have a guest speaker and we have a luncheon, and it has been quite a success. This also is a picture at First Baptist Church from one of our family reunions after we worshiped with First Baptist Church. And as you see, God, family, and community, and we always say the family that prays together stays together. I would also at this time like to recognize two people here that even though I love my family dearly, well, three. I love my family dearly, but I have a prayer partner that's here with me today. And Sister Flippin, would you stand, please? Whenever my heart gets heavy, whenever burden becomes so that I think I need just someone that can pray with and for me, I call Sister Flippin. And I have another mother that's here. I have known her since I was 5 years old. Her sister was my best friend, and we still keep in contact. Mrs. Gilmer. And there's one of my schoolmates here that has always told me, Apudgie, don't worry about the things that happen with your children. Anybody that has 6 children, 17 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren, and they have done well, then you don't worry about the little stuff. Just be so happy and so proud that you have done as well as you have with your family. Miss Catherine, would you please stand? This lady. I'm going to tell you a little story about Catherine. We grew up together. She lived over on Shelton Avenue and I lived on Piedmont Road. And she had a brother named Richard. I was 7 years old, and my cousin Frank Harris and Richard went to the Air Force. They came back in those blue uniforms, and I'm 7, and I'm looking at Richard. And I told her, I said, Catherine, I fell in love with your brother, and I was only 7 years old. But we have been friends and partners for a long time. We have been in the band together. We have been in exercise class together. And we've played. And she also is the director of the steel drums at the Dunbar Center, in which I am a member when I can get to go. And at this time, I'd like for my family to please stand. And this is my cousin Julius Jackson. He is the patriarch of our family, and I'm the matriarch of our family, the Lawson Booker family. And I have also some of my church members here, and I would like for them to stand if they wouldn't mind. Vandalia church members. sister friend, Louise Dawson. We've been friends since 7th grade. She went away to work. Stand up, Lou. I also have another classmate here, Miss B. Walker. I thank you all for coming, and I hope that I've given you something about the life that I have lived. One thing I want to tell you is this. My mother was 47 years old when she passed away. My father was 54 years old. I was 27 years old when my mother passed, and it was like my world had ended. But my mother had been a Christian woman that I never walked in our house in the afternoon after school that my mother was not reading the Bible. My mother taught us that you treat other people the way you want to be treated. Don't ever think that you can't do anything. Anything you want to do, you can do it if you set your mind and your heart to it and work hard. I've always had a job. I started working when I was 13 years old. And one thing about that is, you go to work as a young girl, they'll call your parents back then and say, I want your daughter to babysit for me. Yes, you go to babysit, you end up washing, you end up ironing, you end up running the sweeper and taking care of the kids. I made $7 a week on my first job at 13 years old. I left Garnet after band practice and caught a bus in front of the library and went to Edgewood. I worked until 8 o'clock that night. That was Monday through Friday. On Saturday, I went from 8 to 5. $7, paid my bus fare out of that $7. Then I got a job when I was 17. I made $14 a week. I worked from 9 to 5, and I worked from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, and on Saturday from 9 until 12. You did the same thing. You washed, ironed, cleaned, took care of the kids, and all of that for $14 a week. You all don't, young people don't know what it's like. You don't know what we went through and the trials and the tribulations that we went through in order for us to make it. But one thing for sure and certain, the way we were brought up, that you worked hard and you did your best, and God would bless you. And I come from a praying church, and one other thing I need to tell you. I went to Liberty Baptist Church. I was a Sunday school teacher, and I was the secretary of the Sunday school. And that was when I was from a young girl until I was in elementary school. I decided, because Iris Woods was one of my best friends, and her dad was the pastor, Reverend John Woods at Simpson Church, that I was going to go to Simpson then. And my Aunt Elizabeth Jackson, Cody's mom, was over the youth there, so I started going to Simpson. I have been under some of the best God-fearing pastors that anyone could ever have. And I think that's how I've been grounded and rooted in the Lord. I know Him for myself, and I know He has brought me through so much. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but I want to tell you this. My baby son died April the 7th. It was one of the most horrific things that could have happened to me, because old people used to say that a child is not supposed to die before its parents, and that is a heart-wrenching thing. We buried my son on the 21st of April, and 1 week later I found that my second son has cancer in the 4 stages. But I know my God is going to bring my son through. I know that all of the cancer that is now wrecking his body is going to be gone. My son is going to be back singing in his choir in our church.
And I thank God for you. I thank God that I was raised in a Christian home where you loved the Lord, you loved your neighbor, and you treated other people the way that you want to be treated. Thank you.
Amen.
That was inspiring, wasn't it? Yes. Get out of the way. That young lady who was just here, your daughter, could you come back here, please? You know, what I'd like for the audience to do when you leave here, as Ms. Booker said, she was encouraged by her community, and those within her community sort of adopted her and guided her through. That's what I'd like for you all to do. Look out in your communities, in your schools, in your churches. Some younger person needs guidance. He or she is bound to get into some kind of trouble somewhere. Smoke a joint, drink a beer or some liquor, or even something stronger that's going to mess up their head, get them going the wrong way. They need somebody to reach out and say, I care about you. I can see that you're going the wrong way. Let's talk for a minute. Teach them a better way to go. That's what Ms. Booker's talking about. Teaching a better way to somebody. And that's what I'd like for us to do, is to take that information and pass it on to a younger generation of people, that they can grow up to be like you. But what I have here, Ms. Booker, the governor's getting involved with us quite naturally, and he likes what we're doing. Past Governor Tomlin liked what we were doing. And I foresee when Governor Justice is out of office, that the next governor, you can see that we're going with this Block Speaker Series. 4 years from now, 6 years from now, to the next governor will be involved with us too. That's when I want to see half the audience 50 years and younger. And they will say that one of you guided them to where they are today. And that's what I want us to do with this Block Speaker Series, is to reach out to everybody that we know that's younger than us and help them along. Get them through school, get them through college, help them get a better job, and raise a good family through spiritual teachings and our adult teachings. Would you like to read this for me, please?
All right. The state of West Virginia, Jim Justice, Governor. Whereas Mary Lawson Booker was born in Charleston, West Virginia, the oldest of 7 children born to the late Joseph E. and Ludelia Johnson Lawson. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker attended Boyd Elementary School and Junior High School and graduated from Garnet in 1949, where she was a majorette, member of the Glee and Drama Club, and received several certificates from the West Virginia University. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker was a devoted wife to her husband, Charles L. Booker Sr., and a loving mother of 6 children, and proud grandmother of 17 grandchildren and 13 great-grandchildren. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker has been a member of the First Baptist Church of Vandalia for over 50 years and has served as a Sunday school teacher, held various other offices, and was trustee and secretary of the Mount Olive President's Council. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker has served as secretary of the Guiding Star, chapter number 9, Order of the Eastern Stars, matron, Golden Eagle Court, number 38, Herons of Jericho, and president of Ray of Hope Grand Council of Herons of Jericho, West Virginia. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker was inducted into the Garnet Hall of Fame in 1999 and a Henry Howland Garnet Foundation member, serving on the scholarship and housekeeping committees. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker retired from Union Carbide, becoming the first black woman to become an office manager while working at Arlan's department store in Charleston, West Virginia. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker was inducted into the governor's 12th annual Civic Rights Day, Advancing Civil Rights Through Advocacy and Unsung Heroes. And whereas Mary Lawson Booker is a caring and giving person, and her dedication and commitment to her family, community, church, and career has been an outstanding example to us all. Now, therefore, I, Jim Justice, Governor of the great state of West Virginia, do hereby bestow upon Mary Lawson Booker this certificate of recognition, given under my hand and the great seal of the state of West Virginia, the 25th day of May in the year of our Lord, 2017. Signed by Jim Justice, Governor.
You ready? Yeah. Thank you all for coming. I recognize Ms. Gilbert. She and Mr. James Randall wrote a book called The Black Past that carries a lot of the black history that's in Charleston and around the area. If you have your hands on that book, continue reading it, share it with somebody, but keep your hands on it because they may take it from you. We, the organization, the West Virginia Center for African American Art and Culture, are working in the future to make copies of that book. And I'd like for you to be aware of when we do that. And if and when you'd like to make a donation to the organization, you have information through the brochure. You'd like to give me a call or mail us a check. That would be greatly appreciated. We can continue with our Block Speaker Series and other endeavors that we are working on at this moment into this year and next year. Your contribution will be tax deductible, and you could, of course, write off your taxes. But if you would consider a donation to the organization, we greatly appreciate it. Next month, June the 29th, as you see in your pamphlets you have, Ella Jean Martin, we know her as Jean, the barber on Shrewsbury Street, will be here to give her presentation of her life. Her son David will be doing the signing for her. But as I have found out, she has a very, very rich history to tell and to show us who she is and where she has come from. And her condition did not prevent her from becoming who she is.
Amen.
And that's what I want to strive to, for us to recognize, that she has become who she is, regardless of her conditions. And we need to look at that and follow it and share it with others. Again, thank you for coming out. Come out next month with some younger people as well.
we go. People from all over, from all the places, they help to build this great state, city and nation. There comes a time when we gotta say thanks to the block, yeah, back in the day. This is the time when we must say thanks to the block. I said now back in the day, to the people, places and things, to all the memories that the block did bring. Back in the block, in the day, yeah. Come on with me, y'all. Back in the day, to the block, yeah. I said back to the block, yeah. Wanna tell you one more time. My house and your house, and up in the hollers, we got preachers and teachers, doctors and lawyers. I said my house, your house, and up in the holler, musicians, yeah, they got hustlers and ballers. People from all over came and claimed their places. They helped to build this great state and city and nation. I said there comes a time when we gotta say thanks to the block, yeah. I said back in the day, back to the block, yeah. Get it to me. Back in the block, Ooh, yeah. I can remember all the good times I used to have. Going to church, to restaurants and shows. Ooh, when Wilson Pickett came to town, and James Brown came to town. Ooh, yeah, Mordecai Johnson, all the good preachers and teachers. That's right, I was there. Some of y'all were